It's Fill Your Plate Now, where every bite brings you closer to the farm gate and further from what's unhealthy. Now here's your hosts, Julie and Tammy, helping you live well by filling your plate well.
Well, Julie, we talk about the farm. We talk about where our food comes from. We talk about nutrition and how we can be healthier, but we very rarely talk about the food insecure and what happens if they don't have access to healthy, nutritious foods. So today we are going to have an individual on who is with St. Mary's Food Bank that's going to inform us a little bit more about what goes on there, some of the programs they have going, and how we can help and contribute to those that are food insecure.
And it is a very important part of the food supply chain. Is
Absolutely.
the link that helps our food insecure population.
Absolutely. So I'm excited today to have Jerry Brown on. He's been with St. Mary's for 17 years and this past year as the Director of Public Relations. Prior to that, it's one of the things I love about the podcast is I learn things about people that I didn't know, even if I've known them for years. Prior to that, he worked in the media as primarily as a sports reporter for the East Valley Tribune
Oh, how fun. I didn't know that either.
for a number of years, and prior to that he was from New York, which we won't hold against him. But but anyway, welcome, Jerry. It's great to have you on today.
Hi, ladies. Good to be with you. I moved to Arizona when I was 10, so I think I qualify as a native. I've been here more than 50 years, so I'm pretty much an Arizonan.
I agree.
And we totally accept you as a native.
And 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 I have to say, quite a leap from media, sports to St. Mary's and food bank work. Could you tell us? So let's start out by talking a little bit about how you ended up making that transition.
It wasn't by choice. What happened was I knew a lot about St. Mary's growing up here in Arizona. Would see things at sporting events that I covered that check presentations to the food bank or food drives or things like that. Didn't really think much of it. But I was there for 25 years, and one day in 2009, the East Valley Tribune went from 150 employees to 15. We're all led into a building and told that the paper was going, as it was going to be closing in 3 months, and that was going to be it. So with two teenage daughters at the time, the idea was, do I go to another state to try to look for a sports writing job, or do I try to find something here that would keep me, in the valley, keep the kids in school, keep the family together, stay in the house. So I started looking around at things, and somebody who worked at the Tribune previously to me was working in communications at St. Mary's and asked me to come for about 3 or 4 months in between jobs to write a couple of press releases for them and to kind of handle some of their media, which was almost non-existent at the time. And that was 17 years ago, and I'm still here.
Well, you are really the face of St. Mary's. I think I see you in the media almost every week, so you do a great job with it.
Yeah, it's funny because I was always on the other side of the camera and the other side of the pen, being the person who asked the questions and didn't really have any experience whatsoever in answering the questions. But when you spend that much time involved in the conversation, you feel like you can handle both sides of it. So it was fun to flip over to the other side and represent what is a great organization in St. Mary's.
Well, Jerry, I'm a fellow journalist like you, and I always joke that I kind of had envy toward the sports journalists because, in a way, you get to be that first hand witness because you're there watching the games and or interviewing the players. So you're that first hand account because you can give the play by play. And a lot of people don't realize that in journalism, how exciting, number one, and how important the role is of our sports journalists. So kudos to your background. The thing I wanted to ask you, rumor has it, and you'll probably clear this up for me. I think the whole concept of the food bank started in Arizona, and I think St. Mary's Food Bank launched it. Can you kind of explain the concept of the food bank and why we were so futuristic, I guess, or innovative to come up with this quote unquote food bank concept to help the food insecure?
Absolutely. It should be a great point of pride for Arizonans that the world's first food bank is here. St. Mary's is in its 59th year of feeding the hungry of Arizona, and we are the world's first food bank. So there are more than 200 Feeding America food banks across the country. There are hundreds of other food banks not affiliated with Feeding America across the country, and they all started with the idea and with one man, and his name is John Van Hengel. He passed away in 2005, so he hasn't been with us for a while. But John was a volunteer at St. Vincent de Paul in the dining room, and was just helping to clear plates, was helping to feed families, and came across a woman who had several children. The number of children varies in the story between 6 and 9, but uh, he asked them just out of curiosity, "What do you do when the dining room is not open? You know, you're not here every day. You're we're not open on the weekends. What is it that you do to feed your family?" And she said, "I go behind the grocery stores and jump into the dumpster and see what I can find as far as canned food is concerned, because they throw a lot of good food away that's still I can still feed my family with it." And it gave him the germ of an idea. What if there was a place? And she even in the conversation mentioned, wouldn't it be great if they had a bank, a place where you people could put the food in, that had extra, and the people who needed it could withdraw it. And that was a germ of an idea that has now moved not across the United States but across the world. John started food banks in 4 different continents by the time he passed away in 2005, and we have visitors from Japan and from all across the Far East and Asia and Europe, from food banks that have all started on the model that St. Mary started then. We don't chase live chickens around the parking lot the way they did 50 years ago, but we've really refined it into a place where last year we distributed over 120 million pounds of food. That's just within the state of Arizona. And we cover about 2/3 of the state of Arizona. There are 4 Feeding America food banks in the state of Arizona. We're by far the largest and have by far the largest territory to cover. We cover about 2/3 of the state, and that includes everything from about the Salt River north into the Flagstaff, into the Indian territories, into all across Flagstaff and Prescott and Kingman and all those areas. So we cover all the way up into the corners, and again, 120 million pounds of food a year get moved.
That is amazing. That is amazing. And I didn't realize that. That's an interesting story. And then you have been there 17 years, correct?
Correct. That's right.
Have there been a lot of changes in the organization, the clientele, the
Yeah.
products you can get over a period of time?
It's amazing how many. When I came here in 2009, there was one warehouse, which is where I'm talking to you from right now, at 31st Avenue in Thomas. And the St. Mary's campus now stretches from 32nd Avenue to 29th Avenue. We've gotten bigger, we've gotten larger, and we've had to. Because of the need that's we have places in Flagstaff. We built a brick and mortar building in Chinle on the Indian reservations up there on the Indian land, territorial lands. And we've started distributing large amounts of food up there in an area that really needs help. And we also have a huge building in Surprise. So if you look at just at our 4 buildings across the state of Arizona, it's more than 2,000 families a day that come to St. Mary's Food Bank. But if you add in the 600 agency partners, and if you've heard of these places, if you've heard of St. Vincent de Paul, if you've heard of UMOM, if you've heard of Sojourner House, if you've heard of uh, uh, Phoenix Rescue Mission, all of those are agencies that receive all of or most of their food from St. Mary's Food Bank. And that also includes smaller food banks and pantries. So they have their own mission where they do different kinds of things, but there's a food component of that. And they almost rely totally on St. Mary's Food Bank to provide the food for those.
So we often ask this question, Jerry, what's a typical day for you, especially in the role you serve for St. Mary's Food Bank? We're just kind of curious your day to day. I know yeah, I'm sure it can just move in different directions, but what's a typical day to day?
Well, for me, as you said, as kind of the face of the food bank, I work with our president and CEO, Milt Liu. And we're trying to get the word out about St. Mary's, whether it's an event that's happening, whether it's a volunteer event, whether we're working with corporations, whether we're working with our agency partners, whether it's the media in print or online or television. Uh, it's our job to kind of be the mouthpiece for the organization, and to also work with all the different areas and facets of the food bank that need help. We've really expanded. We didn't have a community kitchen. We didn't, which is a place where folks can come and learn culinary skills. They come out of the prison systems. They can't get a job. They're unhireable. And we're able to, through a 6-week program, get them the ability to go out and find a job. And we do that also with forklift drivers now through a program that we call Lift. Those are things that I never would have thought of in 2009 when this started. Everything went through one building. We would do one program from 9 o'clock to 12 and clean that up, and then do another program from 12 to 3. Now those all have separate buildings that we're able to do things. And I think that when I came here, we were distributing about 20 million pounds of food, and that number is about 120 million now. So that's 6 times the amount of food. And it's fantastic that we're able to do that, but it's sad that so many people need that help.
Has the need grown that much, or have you just been able to glean more food for those that are coming there?
Both. I think we have increased the amount of food out of necessity for the people that need it. When I came in 2010, we were just starting a bad recession that lasted about 2 years, and a lot of changes came, and we doubled the amount of food just in that small period. We went from 20 to 40 million, and then things like COVID come up, and things like the when the housing prices double and triple, and when inflation hits. So with each new thing that places more and more people in danger of not being able to feed themselves and their families, the burden falls on the food bank to expand and try to meet that need. And we couldn't do it without our donors. The only reason that we're able to expand and grow to the abilities that we have is because Arizona has a very philanthropic heart. It has a people that are willing to say, look, we see a problem. If you're able to meet that problem, we're going to give you the necessary tools to do that. Whether it's a volunteer time, whether it's donations of cash, or the donations of food. We have so many food drives going on during the year, and so many grocery stores. There are more than 400 grocery stores in the valley alone. We pick up food from all of those on a daily or weekly basis, either ourselves at St. Mary's or our agency partners. So if we don't have that pipeline, we can't grow the way that we need to serve the people who need it.
And when I've been over there, it really is a well-oiled machine. I mean, you have people staffing various areas throughout the building. And how many people does it take to staff St. Mary's and keep it operating? And what kind of jobs do they do?
When I came here, I think it was about 110 people that we had working at the food bank. It's over 250 now. And it's just amazing. I mean, our transportation crew alone drives 2 million miles a year across the valley roads, either picking up food or dropping off food. And when you're going to, Chinle or Flagstaff or Kingman on a daily basis, that's a lot of miles that our people are putting on. And then, we have a separate building where we're distributing food to folks. We have a separate building where volunteers are building emergency food boxes, and that takes a lot of folks. But we have a lot of 250 employees, but they're all really dedicated to the mission of helping to feed people. They come here. Everybody needs a job. Everybody needs to take care of their families, but they also do it with an understanding of what it means to go out and help feed a family, to make sure that a kid is fed each day, and make sure that a mother and a father can take care of their families, or a senior who had never had worry about putting food on the table, all of a sudden finds out that inflation is tripled, and your social security check doesn't cover it anymore. So there's a burden that goes with that now. And I think that each one of us that come to St. Mary's come with the pride of having the ability to help out and to help every family that needs it.
You alerted it to it earlier by talking about a couple of the programs, the Lift program, the culinary program. What are a lot of the programs that you provide in terms of outreach to those in need?
Mhm.
Anything beyond your
Well, from
culinary and your lift?
right, from the handout perspective, we have the emergency food box, which is a 2 to 3 day supply of food for a family of four. We build over 100,000 of those a month. Every one of those is built by volunteers. So when we talk about 250 people working at the food bank, the number of volunteers we get a year, and it's about 90,000 that come to help at St. Mary's Food Bank on an annual basis. That makes up another 200 employees and really frees us up to do the job that's needed to be done and builds every one of those food boxes. Now, there's an emergency food box. There's also a senior box, which we can't give the same food that we give to a family to folks that are in their 60s and 70s and 80s because they can't eat that food. We have to give them food that's more palatable for their diets. So we have those programs. We have weekend backpack programs where kids are taking food home on Fridays right out of the school system, and pantries that are built right in school systems. We have a kids cafe program, which is a after school lunch program. So the kids that get free breakfast and free lunch in the schools, they get a third meal on that 3 or 4 or 5 o'clock area, either in the school or in an after school program nearby. Because we found out a lot of those kids were not getting food until they came back to school the next day. There wasn't food at home. So not only are they able to get a meal for themselves and after school, but on the weekend they can take back a sack of food, then help feed not only themselves but their entire families for the weekend. So it's really all of those are important. Those are our handout programs. And you talked about Lyft and Community Kitchen, where people would go out and get jobs in the community. People that were otherwise would have a very difficult job gaining employment. They have a place where they can say, "Hey, look, I've been at St. Mary's for the last 9 weeks. I've been going to work every day. I've kept my nose clean. I've been taking drug tests. You can count on the fact that I'm ready to go back into the workforce." And that's what we call our hand up programs. And so between the handout and the hand up, St. Mary's has their tentacles on a lot of different things, trying to make sure that we're not only feeding you, but giving you the opportunity to help feed yourself in the future.
And I think I heard you said you easily feed 2,000 people a day, or is it more than that?
Just at the folks that come to the St. Mary's locations in Phoenix
Oh,
and
okay.
Surprise, that's 2,000 families a
Just
day.
2,000.
But if you look at the number of meals that St. Mary's provides, you're talking about 250,000 meals a day. So that's 250,000 meals. Now, some of those are going to the same people, so it's not 250,000 people that are being fed, but enough food is being put out into the community to provide 250,000 meals a day.
Huh. And do you have any special summer programs? I know summer can be especially hard on the food insecure and children.
Yeah, it's very hard for several different reasons. Number one, school is out, so those free breakfast and free lunches stop. And a lot of the summer programs that used to replace those aren't around anymore. So that's one facet. The other thing is, we all know that it gets warmer here in the valley. So the need for water increases. The amount of air conditioning that people are doing, that raises their electric bill. And for people on a tight budget, that eliminates the amount of money that they can spend on food. So they come to the food bank more often when they're paying higher electric bills or when they're paying higher water bills, because that's all they have. And if they have to pay that extra money on one side, some other part of their budget has to change. And they do that by coming to the food bank and pick up food to feed their families.
I didn't think about that, but the water in the summertime would be a huge need.
Absolutely.
I know we've worked with you before on dairy programs because dairy tends to be something that you don't get as many donations for, probably because it's highly perishable, and tends to be something in demand. What are some of the greatest needs for the food bank in terms of different foods or food categories?
Yeah, we do a great job of picking up food from all the different grocery stores. And if you shop there, they donate here. That's as simple as it comes. If you go to Fry's or Walmart or Safeway, and I could go on and on and on and on and on, that while you're shopping going in the front door, the food that's going out the back door is going into a St. Mary's truck, or going into a United Food Bank truck, or going into a Southern Arizona food bank truck, and to help people who need it. For as far as our biggest needs, milk is a great need. For people who come to food banks, the donation is about a gallon a year. So I mean, it's very difficult for us to get donated, and that's why it's great for you to work with. You know, we've worked with the farmers and the Arizona Dairy Commission for years and years and years and I see you every year at our Diamondbacks events when we're able to make those, and those milk donations are very important because it's one of the first things, even at the low price of dairy in Arizona. It's one of the things that gets eliminated because we just can't fit it. We can't fit it into the budget. We have to make sure that we have enough food. So we want to make sure that we can get what's an important uh, from a nutrition standpoint, a very important product into people's hands. But water is very important. Canned fruits and vegetables are very important to us. Peanut butter is what we call our superstar because it's not only a protein, but you can make a lot of sandwiches with one jar of peanut butter, and kids like to eat it. So it fills your stomach. It's good protein, and it stretches a long way. So it's kind of a superstar item for us. But it if it's non-perishable and it's something that you have extra of, we can certainly put it to great use. We don't collect perishable food because we collect that perishable food from grocery stores, and we have a great idea of what the time clock is like on that so that we can turn it around and get it out to folks. We ask for donations from the public to be non-perishable.
And I think the culinary teaching on peanut butter isn't as difficult other than maybe to teach people all the different and unique unusual ways you can incorporate peanut butter into your meal. But you have dedicated donors that are regularly donating, like the Arizona milk producers. But what about, you still have to do food drives? What do you consider a successful food drive, and or what have been some of your most successful food drives?
Right. Food drives, we have thousands of food drives that we do over the course of the year, whether it's kids collecting a box of food in their classroom to what's coming up, if I can give it a plug, in a few weeks, which is Stamp Out Hunger, which is the National Association of Letter Carriers. They collect food that folks leave at their mailbox. It's coming up. It's the second Saturday in May every year. So it's about 3 or 4 weeks away. And all people need to do is go into their pantry, pull out 4 or 5 items, 10 items if you can, throw it into a bag and leave it at your mailbox. And your letter carrier will pick it up on Saturday during his normal route, take it back to the post office where St. Mary's trucks are waiting. And we get hundreds of thousands of pounds of food a year from that drive. And so it's coming up second Saturday in May, Stamp Out Hunger. You'll actually get some notices the week of, and you'll get a bag to put your food in a lot of places. But if you don't get a bag, any bag will do. But it's a great opportunity for you to clean out your pantry for the summer, and without even having to take it to a food bank or a food drive, just drop it at the end of your driveway or at your community mailbox, and your letter carrier will take care of the rest.
It couldn't be any easier. You just take it right out to your mailbox. That's fantastic. We'll make sure we put that in our descriptor too for the podcast,
Okay,
so
fantastic.
everyone will have that easily on hand. One of the things too, I wanted to ask about. Um, I've been there early morning before it opens, and I was surprised to see the lines outside for people to get in, and they're there, I remember you telling me, because they have to get to work after that, so they come early and then they're going to work. And I think many times you think a food bank, they aren't they're out of work and, need the food, but really it's kind of the working poor. Can you give us a few examples of, helping people through this time frame, what it what it does for them and where they go from there, some of the success stories?
Yeah, well over half of the people who come to the food bank, and that's excluding seniors who are retired, that's excluding folks who are unemployed. Well over half of all of the people who come to the food bank have jobs. They just don't have a job that's able to cover everything. They're not going through a 3 week rough patch. They're in a situation where at the end of the week it's not cutting it. The rent, the house payment, the utility payment, the keep putting gas in your car at $4.50 a gallon, it's not making it. And they're coming to the food bank before they go to work or after they get off a night shift or something like that to get food. So we see a lot of folks in that situation. So we I come to to my job every day at 7:30. We open from 7:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, and there are already 70, 80, 90 cars in line waiting for the 7:30 to come for the food bank to open. And that line is consistently 70 to 80, 90 cars deep for the entire time that we're open. In fact, we're just expanding hours every other week, I believe, to Saturdays to people who work Monday through Friday and say, hey, look, I work 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. I can't get to the food bank before I go to work. And by the time I get off work, you're closed. I can't take advantage of what you have to offer. So we're now opening every other week on Saturday where people can come for a short period of time and get in there and get the food for their family without having it affect their work schedules.
Obviously, there's times of the year where the need is heavier than others, but is it cyclical? Is it tougher in the summer for families, especially children, because they're no longer in school? Or that's got to be the big one, but also during the holidays? I mean, what are the ebbs and flows?
I would say absolutely the two biggest times are your June, July, August when the kids are out of school, and because again, daycare do you have someone in your family who can take care of your kids? If not, you're paying. That's an extra added expense, and including to the utilities, including to feeding the extra meals for your kids during the day. Daycare is a consideration, but also the holiday season. Definitely around Thanksgiving and Christmas, we see a lot of folks, and I think a lot of that has to do with here's the budget. Can I get my kid a Christmas gift? Can I get my kid something for the holidays? And where am I going to find that money in my budget to be able to do it? And some of it is by utilizing the food bank for a short period of time. During the Thanksgiving season, I'm sure that you guys have heard this, but we do our turkey drives every year for St. Mary's Food Bank, and you'll see these unbelievable aerial shots of lines of people miles long waiting for food banks. We distributed over 22,000 turkeys and complete Thanksgiving meals last year to families to take home. You take that 22,000 and you multiply it by 5, 6, 7 people that are receiving that meal at home when mom and grandma get a chance to cook it up. You're talking about 125 to 150,000 people who would not have had Thanksgiving dinner that received that through Thanksgiving with St. Mary's. And we start up in Chinle and in the tribal territories. We start that 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, and we end it in Phoenix and Surprise in the 3 days leading up to Thanksgiving. And by the time that last car leaves on Wednesday, about 12 o'clock the day before Thanksgiving, with a turkey in the back seat, that's an amazing feeling. It takes thousands of volunteers to get that job done. It takes around the clock work by all of our 200 employees pretty much the entire month of November. It's really the Super Bowl for food banks when it comes down to making sure that we make sure everybody has that. We try to turn around and give everybody a ham on Christmas as well, to make sure that holiday is a little bit more special. But definitely the holiday season and the summer season are the two times where we see a tremendous uptick in the need.
For the staff at St. Mary's, it's not a holiday break, it's a holiday workforce intensity.
Probably exhausting, but very rewarding. And
Very
it's good to
rewarding.
hear about some of the success stories and food drives. Besides the turkey and the ham drives, other occasions that you felt like have been big successes in terms of food drives?
Yeah, Stamp Out Hunger is a huge drive for us, but then we have individual companies that just do fantastic. We have companies that do water drives that will bring in 500,000 bottles of water at a time. And we've been asking for a lot of people to do macaroni and cheese for us this year because in addition to the uptick in the amount of food that we need, the amount of food that we've received federal government wise has shrunk and shrunk and shrunk and continues to shrink. So we need to come up with not only feeding more people, but finding more ways to do that. We take grapefruits, oranges, lemons off of backyard trees here in Arizona and glean over millions and millions of pounds of citrus that we can turn around and hand out to folks. A grapefruit makes a great breakfast. An orange makes a great snack. that's something that we can add into our bags during the month of. And it's a great that Arizona is so abundant when it comes to citrus. If you have 2 orange trees in your backyard, you have too many oranges to feed your family and to take care of folks. So we have so many folks who bring in pallets and pallets and pallets of oranges, grapefruits, lemons, so that we can turn around and in a short period of time give that out to folks before they go bad.
Based on current or future conditions, what are there any new priorities that the food bank you kind of obviously as boots on the ground, understanding the food insecurity issue, there's ebbs and flows, there's shifts. Any priorities today that are a little bit different than maybe even a few months ago?
Well, we're always responding to, one day in 20 in late 2019, we heard the word COVID and nobody knew what COVID meant. And all of a sudden we were seeing twice as many people come to the food bank as we ever had before. And we were distributing food in baseball stadiums and parking lots and any place that we could to people who weren't able to leave their car. And we still do a non-contact distribution at our main location here in Thomas. And one of the reasons is we never went back to the building site is because the demand never went back down. Because what happened was COVID uh, kind of rolled back, but inflation took over, and the number of people that came here because they heard about it through needing to come here for COVID knew they could come back when inflation hit and that rent prices went through the roof and housing prices went through the roof and grocery store prices went through the roof. They came back to St. Mary's, and where we're seeing more people who come to the food bank on a daily basis than we did during the height of the pandemic, which you never thought would be the case. And now we're dealing with, it's been in a lot of the news lately, people who are losing their SNAP benefits. About half of the people that were on SNAP are now not eligible to receive those SNAP benefits, and they're going to be coming to help us. A lot of people were using both SNAP and the food bank to try to get through food wise. When you eliminate the SNAP, it puts a lot more pressure on that other leg of the chair, and that's who we are at the food bank. So we know that we're going to see more people. We would love to put ourselves out of business, but we have done a really bad job of that over the last decade.
Well, I know you're affiliated with Feeding America. Tell us a little bit about how that organization and St. Mary's interacts.
Well, it's interesting. John Van Hengel, the man that we talked about, who started St. Mary's Food Bank, also started what he called America's Second Harvest, and that became Feeding America years in afterwards. So he had a hand in starting what is now Feeding America. That is a network of 200 food banks across the country. Every state has one but Wyoming. Most states have at least two or three. Arizona has four, of which St. Mary's is the largest, and I would say that Tucson and United Food Bank are about the same. And then we have a smaller one in Yuma also. But we're able to say they have the kind of the national ability to help us get food, to help us work with companies, and to help us get volunteer help. But then at the Arizona level, it's kind of up to the individual food banks to do that boots on the ground thing at the local level. So in working with what we're able to do as a food bank in tandem with what we're able to do working hand in hand with Feeding America, we're able to feed all the folks who need it. And we've really pride ourselves, in 59 years, we've never said, hey, we don't have anything for you and your family. There's nothing that we can do. There's nothing we can do. And we've said yes every day, 365 days a year for 59 years. And we're going to make sure that that's what we're able to do to every family who needs it in the future. I'll be walking through our lobby and somebody will be kind of looking around and not sure. And you think, okay, this might be the first time they're coming to the food bank and they're not sure how to do this. So you want to make sure that it's a comfortable position. You try to make them feel comfortable. And more often than not, it's somebody that says, I actually want to let you know, you don't know me, but 3 or 4 months ago, our family was in a lot of trouble. We came to St. Mary's. I have $100 and I want to make sure that I give it to you so that the next family, you know, can benefit from what you do. And those are the things that and people don't forget. people don't forget the kindness that you showed them. People don't forget uh, when you came through for them in the pinch. And it's not St. Mary's, it's everybody who made sure that we had volunteers to fill that box, money to buy that next box of food, or, food to put in a food drive to make sure that we can fill those boxes. We get all the plaudits and we get all the thank yous, but it's the people that allow us to do our job that in the end really are the people that deserve those thank yous. They just don't get a chance to hear them. So whenever I'm out, I like to talk about those things. But if I have one story, I'm going to go all the way back to 2009 when I wasn't sure how long I was going to do this. When I was actually looking for other jobs, it's like, okay, I'll do this for a while. I'll help folks out, and then I'll go back to being a sports writer, which is what I knew and loved and wanted to do. It was our Thanksgiving distribution. It was my first Thanksgiving distribution with the food bank. So I'd been here 5 or 6 months maybe by then. And it was my job to kind of, as the newbie, to move traffic, to make sure that people were going along. And a van drove by and it kind of bottlenecked up the traffic. So they said, Jerry, get them out of here. We gotta keep the flow of traffic going. And I walked in and looked through the windows of the van, and there were 4 or 5 kids in the, maybe it was 4 kids. They were inside the van and they were already eating the food. And when I'm talking about food, I'm talking about celery with water on the inside of it and potatoes that hadn't been cooked yet. These were folks who had not eaten in a while. So I came back and I turned around and I said, they're not going to have any food by the time they get home. So we brought another turkey, more food. And when you put the food in the back seat, the kids reacted as if you were putting toys or bicycles in the back seat of the car. They were genuinely excited about the fact that more food was, because they were living the life that most of us only think about in a nightmare. They were going through that. And the people started to get, emotional. The volunteers and the folks that were loading the truck, the parents that were in the front seat of the van started crying. And that's when you say to yourself, maybe this is something I can just do. And that was 17 years ago, and I'm still here.
So inspiring. And I don't think I ever told you, but my father came from a very, very poor family, 13 kids, and it was because of the generosity of others that the family was fed on many occasions. So I really appreciate.
And it may not, and back then it may have been a neighbor, or it may have been somebody in the church, or it may have been, and those are still out there, but we're not as connected as neighborhoods, and we're not as connected as church outside of the church community as we have been in the past. And we need places like the food bank where people can go without knowing the neighbor, or without going to the church, or without being part of this other area in the community, where they can just go and say, hey, I need a little help today. And always get the yes answer, not be judged, not be treated as as anything more than an equal, that of somebody who just needs some help. And we'll walk you through the process. We'll make sure that your family gets fed. No questions asked. Just let us know where you're at. There's an emergency food box that's a once a month thing, but you can come back a second time or a third time in the month. We'll give you that rescue food that we glean from the grocery stores. There's no limit on the amount of that we can get, because we're trying to turn that around before it goes bad and before we waste. And at St. Mary's Food Bank, we out of 126 million pounds of food, our waste is about 2%. So 98% of that food winds up in the stomachs of people who really need it.
Amen. As a media expert, how big is the information gap? In other words, Arizona families, are do you feel that we're all doing a pretty good job of looping these families into knowing where they can go to get food from places like St. Mary's Food Bank?
It's the networks out there in the community, the people who are designed, to help people. They know where to get you. When it comes to the overall media, I think that they're more interested in things that are fun, like when a Suns player comes to do something, or somebody from a Broadway play comes here, or an actor, or if we're giving out something special like Thanksgiving, or a on a holiday. But the day to day, it would be great if there was more information so that when people are in this position, they don't throw up their hands and say, there's no one out here to help. There is somebody out here to help. There is somebody who can get you through this rough patch. Not everybody, the people who come to St. Mary's are not the same people who came here last year. They're not the same people who came here 5 years ago. They're not the same people who will be here 6 months from now. It's people who need help. That's why it's called emergency food, so that we can help you during the times. And nobody wants to be here. Nobody wants to sit in a line and wait for 40 minutes for a couple of boxes of food in the back seat of your car. That's not something that people aren't trying to game the system. They genuinely need help. And the minute they don't need that help, they stop coming here.
It's inspiring how many people you serve and how many you have helped. For our listeners, where would you direct them if they wanted to help, and what can they do?
Well, there's three basic ways that you can help. You can help with your hands. We have volunteer shifts Tuesday through Friday. They start at 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. They last about 2 hours. And all you need is hands and a smile. We play rock and roll music. You box to the beat of the music. The time goes super fast. We have a brand new air conditioned building. If you came here years ago and went, oh man, it was so hot when I went there. My shirt was stuck to my body by the time I was done. No more of that. We have a brand new building, air conditioned, great sound system. Come on down. If you haven't volunteered in years, look at the way to do it now. It's so much fun. You can also donate by donating food. And if everybody does that pantry clean out every couple of months, where it's like, okay, I thought I was going to eat this. I'm not going to eat this. Don't throw it away. Somebody needs that. If you bought it to put in your pantry, there's somebody who's interested in eating that food. Help us get it to the people who need that. And the other one is a financial donation. For every dollar we receive at the food bank, we can provide 5 meals into the community. That's 20 cents a meal. I challenge you to find a better way to spend a dollar than providing 5 meals for somebody who needs it. And we qualify for the Arizona tax credit, where you can do as a family up to $1,000. Individuals about $500 now. You can donate that to St. Mary's Food Bank. Times that by 5. That's 5,000 meals that a married couple could donate to St. Mary's Food Bank and get that money straight back on your taxes. It's not a write-off. It's not a deduction. You get it dollar for dollar back on your taxes. And the amount of good that you can do by doing that without it having to affect you in any way is incredible. So please take advantage of the Arizona tax credit. If you don't give to St. Mary's, give to another charity that speaks to you. Don't let that opportunity go wide. There's not a lot of states that have it. And every Arizonan out there should take advantage of the fact that they have the ability to help a charity, to help children, to help those in need, and not have it even affect them.
Everybody should take care of the tax credit program here in Arizona, because basically what you're doing is telling Arizona where you want your tax monies to
Right.
go.
And who has
You
that
get it back.
ability?
Yeah,
Nobody
who
likes
has
to
that ability?
Nobody
Yeah.
likes to pay taxes. Nobody wants to pay taxes. But at least you have the ability to say, hey, I wanted to go here. Or I wanted to help the symphony. I wanted to help the arts location. I wanted to help kids at the Boys and Girls Club. If it's not St. Mary's Food Bank, we'd love for it to be St. Mary's Food Bank. But if it's not, make sure that you're doing that. Don't let that opportunity slip by to help somebody in a really important way.
And I think that's a great note to end on, Jerry. You are doing amazing, inspiring things. So thank you so much for your time and for all you're doing. And hopefully we'll be able to have you back on again sometime when we get closer to another food drive.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Julie. And thank you for all the milk producers do to help St. Mary's. You guys are always there when we need you.
Thank you.